And welcome into the Wednesday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
Should be doing well. Laid down for a minute at like 4:30, and then I basically woke up at 4:30 in the morning. So, I mean, other than the obvious having to get up and here and there to go to the bathroom, of course.
Good for you.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a time of year where I can't handle it anymore.
I think that's a sign from your body that you really needed some rest yesterday.
I think so. Yeah. And now I've got a little cold. So sorry if I get you guys sick.
I guess we'll see.
We'll find out.
We'll see.
At least Kaharski's being real close to me.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be thrilled.
Yeah.
Keyser, how we doing? What's going on?
What's up, brother?
I'm doing good. Had to change it up a little bit there. But
Thank you.
Yeah. At least I'm not having problems in the middle of the night like Joe, I guess. But yeah,
he didn't have any problems last night.
No. He's raring. He's ready to go. But yeah. Please don't get us sick, man.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it to myself here. I brought my little tissues.
I don't think he's sick.
You brought your own box?
Yeah, I brought my own box.
Look at you.
I think he's in mourning that my beloved Miami Heat smashed his Dubs last night.
Yeah, that is tough. Huh?
Jimmy Butler had no chance walking into that place.
How many points
did
did you have last night, Robby?
I have no idea.
He did have a nice. I saw the tribute video. It was very nice.
I'm sure it was.
And also, he said, "What he say?" He's like, "Pat, I'm not going to say anything to Pat. Pat better not say anything to me."
Yeah.
It's like, dang.
Jimmy Butler.
He's not messing around.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler had 11 points last night.
Yeah. Well,
Adebayo had 27.
I mean, you take Steph Curry off that team, and they're basically an expansion team.
Not very good. Congratulations. It's the biggest win for the Miami Heat all season, probably for the next 5 years. So good stuff.
They still can get in the playoffs, right? They're in there.
Yeah. Get in there.
Get in that play-in, man. You never know.
Yeah, please do that. That's good stuff. Let's do more of that. We got a lot to get into on the program here today. I caught up with Barry Trotz yesterday in advance of their game and ultimately their win against the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll hear that conversation with Barry Trotz. Got into a couple different things that are pretty interesting on the Predators front, so we'll get into that later this hour. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com will be with us later in the program. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him, and there's quite a lot to get into on the Titans front. So let's begin there, Joe. Another move yesterday on the quarterback front that I think you could read it if you wanted to as final confirmation that the Titans are taking Cam Ward at number 1 overall. Russell Wilson signing a deal with the Giants. So over the weekend, Jameis Winston signed with the Giants, and he said, all right, well, Jameis is in New York, and I guess if all else fails for the Giants, you've at least got somebody that can go out there and play for you in Jameis Winston. Well, now Russell Wilson has joined the fold as well. So you've got Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. I think Tommy DeVito still there under contract as well. So keep him in mind, I guess. But what do you make of Russell Wilson to the Giants? And is that kind of the final straw for you that the Titans are about to select Cam Ward in the draft?
Well, I still wouldn't put it at 100 just because there are other teams. I mean, apparently the Saints are like, the Saints sent their entire organization also to so the Saints. What the heck did the Saints pick at?
They're at 9.
What would it take for the Titans to go to 9? I mean, the Saints,
it would take a lot.
It would take a lot. But I mean, think about that lot. If you're the Titans, you know what I mean? I mean, if they decide, yeah, it's actually worth us. Teams have done this before, moved up from that area to the top, and they've had to give up a ton, which I believe happened with the Bears and Panthers just a couple years ago, right? So I guess I'd leave open like that. But, yeah, I think you can close it on the Giants. And the Giants were the obvious team that, we thought it would work. You get some draft capital and you can still get one of those premium players. So short of, oh, my God, the Saints have offered or whoever, whoever else it would be. I mean, there aren't too many other possibilities. Yeah, it's pretty clear. So what was I, 99.3 yesterday?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I'm 99.6 now.
The timing of it's interesting to me because you have Cam Ward's workout on Monday in which the Giants are there. And then Tuesday they'd come out and just sign Russell Wilson in the afternoon. It's like, well, did you have like your last attempt, your last pitch at the Titans and they just told you, like, did Mike Borgonzi at Cam Ward's pro day just tell you, like, hey, man, we're not trading this pick. So
Yeah.
you might as well just go figure out what you're going to do at quarterback because we're not trading it. I don't know. Like, maybe this was their plan for the last week or so here, that they're eventually going to end up with Russell Wilson. And maybe that doesn't change, like, their desire to move up and go get Cam Ward. It's hard for me to believe that you're signing Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston if you're still trying to go get a quarterback at that point. But, I mean, I guess crazier things have happened. I just thought the timing of it was interesting, coming the day after they were all down there at Cam Ward's pro day. It kind of my first reaction to that, Joe, was, yeah, they probably had a conversation with the Titans, and the Titans said, hey, yeah, thanks for no thanks, but we're gonna draft Cam Ward. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, or maybe they didn't like what they saw at pro day. They said, no, okay, actually, I don't like this guy at all.
Could be.
But yeah, it's hard to look at the timing and not think that there's some kind of a correlation there. So it's probably what it is. I mean, they were talking. So what are they going to talk about out there, the two GMs, you know?
Yeah. I'm sure some nice restaurants down there. So
Yeah.
talking about that.
Obviously, the Titans went to a very nice one.
Yeah.
Sparing no expense.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's pretty. Again, I'll leave that door just slightly cracked on just some out of this world offer where you at least have to, like, okay, let's huddle up here and let's talk about this. This is insane, you know?
Yeah.
We're getting like a first and second next year and going down to 9, and we're adding a third this year, whatever it is, you know? You'd have to keep the phone on, but I think it's pretty clear who's going to be quarterback in the Tennessee Titans.
Well, and you know, there's the tweet yesterday from Schefter and some of the other insiders. That's really not, you know, breaking news. Like, this has been out there for a while that the Titans are going to hold an additional workout with Cam Ward coming up,
and Shedeur Sanders.
And you know, the way that Schefter in particular phrased this in the kind of the second part of his tweet says they're becoming increasingly impressed with Ward, and they're expected to listen to offers for the number 1 overall pick. It would now take an even stronger package to acquire the draft's top selection. So anytime like Schefter or one of these insiders tweets something like that out, it's like, okay, well, where's that coming from? Like, is there actual, like, is that the Titans kind of making it known that they want a stronger offer than what they're getting for the number 1 overall pick? Or is that Schefter just throwing stuff out there? And the Titans are going to, it's as simple as they're taking Cam Ward at number 1.
Yeah. I mean, I would guess that that's probably from somebody here in the building. That's basically like, you know, we're not basically, I'm not saying, you know, taking him for sure because, hey, who knows? But yeah, you can put out there that it's going to have to be something ridiculous, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably what happened.
So if you're Brian Daboll today, and you're sitting here watching the way this whole thing has gone down, I mean, clearly they're not going to be on Rodgers anymore. You had Stafford that they were very interested in. We thought that maybe they'd be interested in moving up and drafting a quarterback, and you've ended up with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston in your quarterback room. How do we think Brian Daboll's feeling today?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, let's give it a shot, man. I mean, Russ had some good games last year. Let's taxi New York. How about that?
Oh, yeah.
How about that, huh?
Let's
cab.
Yeah.
Let's get some Sbarro, New York. I don't know. I'm sure Russ will come up with something. Nah, I mean, Daboll, it's like
some good pizza.
Yeah. Authentic New York pizza, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very it's a huge step down from, especially when that Stafford stuff looked like there was something real to it, you know? That
Right.
could have been. I mean, that's a potential game changer. But yeah. I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. Is that a competition?
I don't think so. Like, I think it's going to be Wilson's job. Now, then the question becomes, like, is there any point along the way where you like, all right, well, we've seen enough of Russell Wilson trying to play quarterback. I don't know. Like,
I think they're close at this point. I do. Like, I think Jameis actually is more explosive a player than Russ is at this point, but obviously more mistake prone. I think I might roll that way. But, you know, Daboll, you do whatever you want, man. Hey, you can always go with DeVito too.
You could.
If he's still there.
You could. Well, I think just the way the contract is structured, it's going to be Wilson. Like, it's a 1-year deal, and it's $10.5 million guaranteed, and then you can get up to $21 million with some incentives there. So I think he's going to be the starter. But we had somebody yesterday text us and was like, "Guys, Russell Wilson was pretty good last year. Like, why is there this thought process on him that he's some bad player?" And I'm like, "Well, he was okay last year. He started really good in Pittsburgh, and then it started to go the other way on him as the season went along here.
Yeah.
And frankly, like I think the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers are still out there looking for a veteran quarterback, and he was not the one that they wanted, I think kind of tells you what the thought process is on him right now."
Yeah, exactly. So you got those. So the Pittsburgh guys both go to New York to the different teams. So maybe I have no idea.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's interesting.
I have no idea if they play this year. That'd be fun though. We can get those two guys playing in a Jets Giants, at least maybe a preseason game. Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like he just basically faded, and it was pretty bad version of Russ there by the end. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like Darnold. It's like, wow, look at this guy. And then at the end, you're like, oh. And with Russ, it's a little bit more like, yeah, he's just not the same guy.
Is he getting his own office in New York? We gone past that, or is is that going to be part of the deal here?
Is it New York or New Jersey?
Well, I guess it's New Jersey.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm sure. I'm sure that like Jameis would not be demanding his own office. Jameis will be out with everybody hanging out, and Russ will be squirreled away somewhere. So.
If you'd like to speak with me, please contact my assistant.
Maybe Jameis
will
can
get
be
you in
like
the books.
His PR guy. Jameis should be the guy. You have to talk to Jameis to talk to Russ.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Russell Wilson to the Giants. Does that kind of signal the end of the Giants' pursuit of Cam Ward when it comes to the NFL draft? We'll take your thoughts on that. Plus, another big move in the NFL yesterday that kind of affects the Titans. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So Russell Wilson to the Giants. Does that take them out of the running for the Cam Ward sweepstakes? And then a move at wide receiver yesterday as well, Joe. Stephon Diggs signing with the New England Patriots. So we knew that he came in, he met with the Patriots last week, and yesterday a 3-year, $69 million contract signed by Diggs to the Patriots. So Vrabel gets his guy at wide receiver to come in and I guess be the number one, clearly, up there in New England with Drake May. So a 3-year deal for Stephon Diggs coming off the ACL injury. Interesting. You've got a guy that didn't look like, even in Houston before the injury, that he had kind of like the same explosion. And now you've got an ACL injury that he's coming off of on that front. So what do you make of Diggs ending up in New England in the deal that he got?
Yeah, that was an eye-opener for sure. Obviously, sometimes this is free agency. You overpay. So it's Vrabel taking a gamble that he gets off this ACL and he's still got something left. I think the Diggs, the troublemaker side of it is probably a little overblown. At this point, like, you're trying to stay in the league, like he may get mad at Drake May if he misses him on something or whatever. He's an emotional guy on the field, but I don't think that's the thing. It's just, can he play?
Right.
I mean, basically it's like you're paying like $25 million. And, after 1 year, you can basically get out of it.
Yeah, it's $26 million in guaranteed money.
Yeah, so that's a big number, And if it turns out that he's good enough to continue after that, then I think it's worth that money. But if not, then you gave up a big chunk of change to try to take a swing at somebody who can help your young quarterback. I don't hate it. If you got the money to spend, it's not the worst gamble in the world I've ever seen in free agency.
Well, and it's also like you're looking at the wide receiver market right now. I said last week that Diggs is probably the guy that has a chance to have the most left here. So if you're the Patriots, you're looking at your receiving room right now and you're like, oh, okay, it's not all that great. Take a shot on Diggs, especially while you've got your quarterback under a rookie deal. That's why I wouldn't have hated it if the Titans got involved with Diggs or somebody else. Now, this does take Diggs off the board, so you're looking around at wide receiver options that are available, and they're starting to dwindle a little bit. I mean, Kupp's gone, Diggs gone, Amari Cooper's still out there, Tyler Lockett's still out there, so there's still some guys here, but I still think it would be smart for the Titans to bring somebody else in here in addition to drafting someone at wide receiver. Like, you need a lot of work to be done at wide receiver here.
Yeah, they have to sign someone. I mean, to me, it's almost like, I guess they could draft 2 people, but it's like, and there'll be UDFA, and sometimes those guys are good and work out. But I still feel like signing 2 people would not be bad. But neither of them are going to get people all that excited. It's just the reality of the market. But you have to address it, and I think they will.
I got one text that says, "Would you trade the first pick and Levis for Russell or Jameis, plus their first this year, third this year, and a first next year?" I might. I would not. You could have just, signed Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, and you would not have had to trade for them at that point.
Yeah.
Both of them were out there.
Yeah, if you like them that much, then yeah. And look, I just don't think that Will Levis is it'd be interesting. I guess
they traded Levis on his own. What's he getting back? A 6th?
I was going to say
maybe a 5th.
I was going to say maybe a 5th,
yeah.
But probably
like if it was a 5th,
probably more like a 6, or you swap a 6 for a 7
right,
or something like that. That's what it is.
Yeah. So
again, there may be a team out there that sees something and says, take a flyer on him and work with him a little bit, and there could be something there. But there's no need for that team to give up too much at this point.
Right. And I'm not trading a 1 in Levis to bring in Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, who I could have signed in free agency, to then worry about, the Giants pick next year in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the centerpiece of that would be the picks for number 1. But yeah, I think the Giants have told us, right, all right, we're out. We'll see if anybody else emerges, which again, then you're talking about okay, Titans, not only are you getting out of one and changing your pretty clear plan for taking Cam Ward, but you're also moving way down. So you who knows who's going to be available at that point. Are you talking just in your mind on your board, a totally different tier of player? And if that's the case, then how much would it require? I would think it would require a ton for that to happen. But I'm also like, I would keep that phone line, keep the phone line hot. Wouldn't just dismiss it.
So you bring up the Saints. They're at 9. And the idea of like if they wanted to move up to go get Cam Ward, what would it take if you're the Titans to do that? Now, Stilly threw this out there yesterday, and he brought up the Panthers-Bears trade in 2023, which ended up being for the Bears, DJ Moore plus 9th overall, plus I think 61 overall, a 2024 first, and a 2025 second. So that's a heavy price. I don't know if the Saints are going to do that for Cam Ward, but he did bring up, like, what if you got 9, 41, 93, and Chris Olave and a 2026 second for Cam Ward?
Okay.
Would you consider that deal?
I would consider that deal. Chris, I don't know why the Saints would consider that deal.
Like, if you're getting the young quarterback, you probably want to keep the young receiver around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, I don't hate that. And by the way, I was able to, just because of work, and then I passed out, as I said earlier, I was not able to listen to Stilly. So Stilly and I are having similar thoughts about Bears, Panthers, and Saints. So that's very scary.
Exactly.
This actually scares me a little bit. But no, I mean, something, again, that's a haul. So it's like, then it gets into, okay, well, how much doubt is there in the room about Cam Ward?
Right.
If there's still a healthy amount of it, which frankly, I would think that there would be some. That's where you get into, okay, man, like, it's like, what's worse? It was a great question yesterday. What's worse? Not taking him when it looks like you're going to take him, it's all lined up for it to happen, and then he becomes great, or taking him and it's just another
bust,
bad pick.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
neither sound great.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're either way. Like, this is a career defining move, or non-move.
Karsten on the text line says, my thought process with the Russ signing at first was crap. There goes our trade partner for number 1. But now I'm optimistic that they gave him the 1-year deal for Ward to sit behind Wilson. But it doesn't make sense why they signed both quarterbacks if they're still trading number 1.
Yeah, I think you're talking. But signing both of them
doesn't make any sense.
Tells me this is what they're rolling with this year. And again, some people believe it. Karski will be in there today. He believes it. That next year, that QB class is just amazing, and we'll find out. People will emerge. I wouldn't be surprised if overall it's better, but I mean, I think people are going a little too far with that, but I wouldn't be surprised if some teams absolutely believe that right now.
Yeah, well, that's interesting from the standpoint of, like, if, let's say, the Giants are out of the running for a quarterback in this year's draft. Well, what if, like, a lot of people in Cleveland, from what I've seen, think that it's going to be Abdul Carter. So, like, when's the next quarter? Like, what's the quarterback situation going to look like? If the Titans go Ward at 1 and Cleveland goes elsewhere at 2 and the Giants aren't picking a quarterback at 3, when in the world is, like, Shedeur Sanders getting drafted?
Yeah, he could sit there for a while, for sure. That's absolutely possible. I'm also here for, like, the absolute, they have these workouts and the Titans like, yeah, by the way, Shedeur is definitely the better guy. We're taking him. And
could be.
I mean, I'm so here for it. Here's the thing. I don't want to sit here and pretend like all of a sudden, like, I think pro days mean anything, but I just, Shedeur Sanders I saw something that came out earlier this week. I forget the source, but like, by some measures and metrics, Shedeur Sanders' accuracy is like it's been years since there was a guy, and that's my whole thing. Can you consistently make those layups, hit those mid-range jumpers that you have to hit over and over again? And I do worry a little bit, again, with Cam Ward and like Will Levis, the same thing. I'm not saying they're the same player, but there are some of the similar concerns about, man, you just can't miss that throw, on that in cut. And Shedeur doesn't miss those throws. That's why I like him better.
We got to wait all the way till Friday, April 4th before Shedeur has his pro day.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Is that going to be like? Are they also? Aren't they like trying to do some spring game with like Syracuse or something too?
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to pull that off
with Syracuse defensive backs. That's a while. Well, that'll be actually really interesting too. Like, is it the same collection of Titans
Yeah.
goofballs all yucking it up with
They
them?
got their
Or
entire
Are they
organization
just
out there?
kind of sitting over their side, writing something down and like, "Hi, Shador, how you doing?" Like I want to see the differences in the interactions. How much yucking it up happens at that one?
They're just going to send like 2 people out there, or they
Yeah,
sending the house?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be like because Rand's out there with CBS. Like, hey, Rand, report back to us, will you? We'll listen to your interview with him.
They're going to the Twin Peaks out there outside of Denver for dinner.
Is that where Twin Peaks started? That would make
I don't
sense.
know. I was driving down the road in Colorado in November. I was like, hey, Twin Peaks. How about that?
I mean, it's very fitting in Colorado.
It is 615-737-1025, our phone number. Caught up with Barry Trotz yesterday on the Predators pregame show and got into a number of different topics with him, including is Roman Josi going to be shut down this year? What else is coming in terms of what could be on the table for the defense as they head into the offseason? We'll get into that and more with Barry Trotz coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I caught up with Predators general manager Barry Trotz yesterday on the Predators pregame show. We got into a whole lot of different things, including the future of the defense. Are we going to see Roman Josi again at any point this year? How many of his picks at number one first-round picks that they've got in the draft this year could be in play via trade? We got into all that and more. Here was the conversation with Predators general manager Barry Trotz. Predators general manager Barry Trotz to the program. Barry, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing really good. Appreciate you taking time to be with us tonight. So, Barry, 12 games left here in the regular season. As you look at the way you guys are playing, Andrew Burdett was happy with the games over the weekend here. What can you actually learn about your group over these final 12 games here that you think you can really apply to next season?
Well, I think you want to build a little bit of momentum, but just you got to have some resilience. We're probably going to be, over our skis with some of the teams that have loaded up in the playoff hunt. You want to be playing hard. You want to, a good example is I thought we played a really strong game against a real deep Toronto team that's, one of the top teams in the league, and got a good win. And the next night we go into St. Louis and played them really hard. They just, things are, a little bit more offense from them. They're able to capitalize on their chances, but we played hard. The commitment level was huge. We outshot them. They just couldn't find the back of the net. So, our defense right now is in a position where there's not a lot of experience, and at times they will get exposed because of that. But at the same time, the only way that they're going to get better is by continuing to play these really good hockey teams and get some experience against them. So our team, as I said, I'm not so concerned about the score, but I'm concerned about how we play, how we defend. Our shot volume against has come down. We're defending a lot harder. We got to find the back of the net a little bit more on a regular basis. In Toronto, we got 5. In St. Louis, we couldn't get any. So we got 1, but couldn't get enough to win a hockey game. So those are the things that you're looking for. You're looking for improvement on guys like Justin Barron. You're looking for improvements in guys like Luke Evangelista and Zach LaRue and people like that. So that's what I'm looking for.
So Barry, you were talking in a piece with Pierre LeBrun that came out earlier today about the legacy players in Stamkos and Marchessault, and maybe it's taken a little bit more time than you thought to get used to a new setting here in Nashville. Are you seeing signs that they're making progress there to the point where maybe they're just a lot more comfortable next season, and that could pay significant dividends for them on the ice?
Yeah, I really see it in Brady Shea's play. I mean, I talked to Brady the other day, and we were talking about his season this year. He just felt very uncomfortable, for the first 35 games, and then since that point, I think his game has been really good. He's been rock solid for us since then, and I think he's playing really good hockey for us. Steven Stamkos, I think he had when we finally went back to Tampa Bay, and it took him a little while, but I think he's a Predator now. He's the Tampa Bay legacy is sort of it will always be a big part of him, but I think it's in the rear view mirror, and I think Marchessault is coming around. Unfortunately, Marchessault with the Vegas Knights, he hasn't had his closure yet. I think we play Vegas in a few weeks here, one of the last games of the year. So he hasn't had his closure as a person and even his family. So it's probably taken him a little bit longer, but at the same time, I think they're becoming Nashville Predators, and that's what you want. They've done the bulk of our scoring this year, even though that maybe they're even having a little bit of a down year, but they've done the bulk of our scoring, with Philip Forsberg and O'Reilly. Those 4 older guys have done most of our scoring. So, I think we put ourselves in a position where we just couldn't get ourselves back in the mix, and I think that'll drive us next year to get in the mix early and stay there.
So, Barry, you bring up the defense core. It's been a challenging year back there from the standpoint of some injuries that have taken place, and you've got a lot of young guys in there right now. So, as you look ahead to next year, how do you want your defense core here to be kind of structured moving forward? You know, Yossi and Shea are going to be a big part of it. Hopefully, Lazan is healthy heading into next year. But how do you kind of envision what your defense can look like next season?
Well, I think we got to find a solid partner for Roman. I think Shea and Blankenberg have done a really good job. We didn't have Blanky really in the mix at the start of the year, but he's proved that he can be there. I think obviously Lazan's profile has been missed all year. We moved from Carrier, Fabro, and Carrier, and those three right-handed defensemen, and gone a lot younger with obviously Blankenberg and Barron. So I'd like to find a veteran right-handed defenseman in the group. I think we have a lot of good skaters, and guys like Willsby, I think, can take the next step, and the Sashny and guys like that. But I think we're going to need the odd, I'll say, a little bit bigger profile. That's why, we're looking at England right now. We picked them up on waivers. He might be a real good profile going forward, and just retool our defense a little bit to be age appropriate. We're going to have Yossi. It's going to be in his, getting close to his mid-30s here. So all of a sudden Brady will probably be the old guy at 30. So if we can get some young guys to develop in the next couple of years, we got guys like Tanner Molendyk coming into the mix, Andrew Gibson. I think we'll be in a real good space where those guys will be, their mid-20s, and we'll be sort of retooled that way.
So, Barry, you bring up Roman Yossi, and you've talked about him in past interviews here about doing what's best for him and what's best for the franchise. With 12 games left, have you all made a decision on him in terms of whether or not he'll be back in the fold this year?
I would say we haven't made a complete decision, but I think we leave it. We're going to do what's best for Roman, and we're working with our trainers and Roman. I would say that, I don't know if there's a whole lot to gain if he gets to the point where he's ready to get back and into the fold and be practicing and all that. Then we'll think about that. But I don't know if there's a whole lot to gain. So we get to a point where there's not a lot of games. I think that there could be just a decision that he just stop where he is right now and just get better and get ready for next year.
So Matthew Wood and Tanner Molendyk, Barry, two guys obviously that you and a lot of Predators fans have their eyes on here. Matthew Wood's on a point per game pace at Minnesota. Molendyk's pretty close to that as a defenseman. So how do you feel about the progress of those two guys this season and the way they're tracking here?
Well, I'll just go with Tanner first. I think he's tracking it really well. If you talk to any scout or any coach in the Western Hockey League, they would say that he is having a terrific year. He's a impact player because of his skating, his mobility, and he should be with Medicine Hat. They have a good enough team that he could be on a long run, which would be really great for his development. So he's tracking really well. I mean, he's a guy that's pressed to make our team the last 2 years, so he's going to be a guy that's going to be forcing himself onto the Predators roster probably sooner rather than later. Because his ability to skate is elite. With Matthew, he's a bigger player. He's 6'4", big player. And the best thing he did, I think, was he transferred to Minnesota. They got a really good program, really good team, and he's just growing. He's a bigger profile. Will probably take a little bit longer. The big guys usually do because of the strength that it needs to carry a bigger body and load, so the skating and the strength has to come. But his instincts in terms of putting up points are very good. So he's a player that we're going to watch right through the NCAA tournament, and hopefully he has a good run and wins a national championship.
So, Barry, we've talked with you before about the draft capital that you've built up here. Obviously, 3 first-round picks at the moment coming up in this year's draft. So with that kind of in your back pocket here, if the opportunity presents itself this summer, how willing are you going to be to deal one of those first-round picks if you feel like the deal that comes across your desk is the right move to make?
Well, I always have that. I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to move the first pick.
Right.
But I would say the next two picks are in play for different scenarios. I mean, we have to wait for the lottery. That would be the first thing that we have to wait for and see where we go there. And then obviously the draft will start and all the balls will sort of fit into place. And, we have different scenarios. We may draft the first two picks, trade the third, or push it to another year, or move it to acquire another player. We'll look at all those scenarios, and it'll have to play out a little bit. And there's a lot of work to be done before the draft, so we'll do that. That won't be a problem. But to give you the exact scenario, it would be it'll be incomplete and unsustainable because you don't know what's coming around the corner. So we'll do what's best that helps us for the long term. And probably my main goal is to create the next core, the young core. And like I said, in a number of statements, I said the plan has always been in pen, and the path has been in pencil a little bit. We got last year we were bold in free agency to sort of keep this core have a little bit of a run if we could. It didn't happen, and we were also in that mold to do that, to blend some of our young guys with some of our old guys. So you look at the good example of that is if the Lions stay together tonight, you had the Forsberg with O'Reilly and Evangelista, and then get those type of mixes where the younger players are mixed in with maybe two older players, and then as those young players continue to improve and get better, you'll have one older player and two sort of younger players that have matured, and hopefully we create a new younger core.
So, Barry, you bring up Evangelista. He had a big night the other night, obviously, against Toronto with a goal and 2 assists. From an injury standpoint, it's been a tough year for him. From a production standpoint, it's been a tough year to this point. So, kind of down the stretch here, what do you need to see from him to know that, all right, he's starting to click here as the season ends, and maybe he can carry that forward heading into next year?
Well, I think with every young player, what we're going to see is them being very consistent in their play, having a little bit of impact. I mean, he had a great night against Toronto. I know his mom was in town and she made his favorite dinner. Brendan Shanahan, who's his uncle, was at the game, and Mitch Marner was his favorite player growing up, and he's lining up against him. So he was very excited, and he played a tremendous hockey game. Now, can you follow that up? I thought he followed it up with a strong game in St. Louis, and this will be a good test tonight against Carolina, who pressure all over the ice, and Luke likes to hang on to the puck. So this is a challenge for him every night to adjust his game to be effective against any type of team that comes at him.
Barry, last thing for you here. You make the move to get a little younger in goal earlier this year with Annunen coming in. What's been your evaluation of the way that he's played, and kind of how do you view that Saros-Annunen partnership moving forward here?
Well, I think exactly what I wanted to do is, that opportunity came early with Colorado changing their goaltending, and we were always on the Annunen sort of bandwagon. I tried to acquire him a year before with in the Trenton deal, and they weren't ready to do that. But when they were ready to do that with the Wedgwood, we jumped on that. A couple of reasons. A, he gave us a young profile. He's 24, 25. He's just, hitting the right age for a goaltender to really take off. He's a big man, and he's someone that you had, I'll say, identified with by your scouts and from other organizations that if you could acquire, you wanted to acquire. So we tried to do some of that. We did that with the Carrier Barron deal. Younger player who's probably a half step back from a more mature, polished player. But the upside of both Annunen and Barron are good, and those trades are very similar. Getting us younger and getting our profile more of our 24, 25-year-old type of profiles in our lineup for the coming years.
That was Predators general manager Barry Trotz. Lots to react to there. We'll do that coming up next. Take your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Wednesday morning. Appreciate Barry Trotz for stopping by yesterday. Joe, a couple of things that kind of stood out to me in that interview. Number one, Roman Yossi's not playing the rest of the year. He didn't come out and outright say that, but
Yeah, why
he
not?
basically did. You know,
Yeah.
when you say that, I don't know if there's a whole lot to gain from bringing him back. It kind of tells you that he's not going to be back this year, which I think is, by the way, absolutely the right move. There's no point in putting him back out there.
It would be insane to bring him back.
Exactly. So not a huge surprise there. He did talk about, on defense, and, he brought it up at the trade deadline press conference. He brought it up again yesterday in a piece that came out at The Athletic with Pierre LeBrun. He is trying to set the stage where I don't think they're going to be overly active in free agency. Like he's talked about, the being a little bit quieter on the free agent front. Now, in fairness, it would not be that hard to be quieter on the free agent front than what they did a year ago. So I understand that. I mean, they spent a ton of money and they were the story of free agency. So it's going to be pretty easy to have a less sizzle of an offseason than that one on the free agent front. But I don't know that they're going to be big game hunting. And quite frankly, I don't know if there's a whole lot of great options out there unless you want to pay Mitch Marner $13 million a year. So we'll see.
Hey, talk about him again.
What happens on that front. But he did talk about the defense. Like they got to find somebody to play with Roman Josi, he said, and a veteran right-handed defenseman could be a target for there. So I tweeted that out yesterday, and of course, a lot of Predators fans was like, well, great, you had one of those in Alex Carrier, and you traded him in Montreal, and you had maybe another one in Fabro, and you waived him, and now he's in Columbus. So
those things are true. I mean, you want.
Are you one of those guys
better?
Great matches with Josi? I would argue probably not, but they're better than what you got right now.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to be better, but in the meantime, you're worse.
Exactly. So, and something to keep an eye on that front. He did say that, they have 3 first-round picks in their back pocket heading into this year. As expected, he said he's not trading the first one that he's got, which is theirs. But the Tampa pick and the Vegas pick, we'll see where those two ends up being. I mean, look, that could be the Stanley Cup final for all we know. So that could be very late first-round picks. We'll see what ends up happening on that front. But said that if the right deal pops up, he would definitely consider trading one and or both of those picks. Not going to trade their first overall pick, whenever that would be. So not a huge surprise there, but when you got 3 first-round picks, you're trying to look at ways where they could change the equation of their team. Using 1 or 2 of those in a potential trade situation could help you next year.
And also, if you use those picks and use them well, then there's a long-term benefit there.
Right.
I mean, it's like 2 timelines, very much a 2-timeline team to me, right? I mean, like next year you have to try to win and turn it around dramatically. There's no justification for anything but that.
Well, it's interesting to hear his thoughts on Stamkos and Marchessault to that point, because he was talking in the Athletic piece with Pierre LeBrun about how the one thing that he did not expect was, I mean, it took those guys a long time. Like, and you could make the case that they still haven't figured it out, of kind of getting used to a new environment. Stamkos was in Tampa for 16 years. Marchessault was in Vegas for 7. And he was like, he basically underestimated how much different that was going to be. So I guess the question is, now that he feels like they're kind of getting used to it a little bit, how much different does that look like in their play next year? Because I would still say, well, them being used to a new environment's great. Stamkos is 35. Marchessault is 34. So are we going to see like a return to Stamkos approaching 40 next year? It's hard for me to get that in terms of a goal standpoint. And also, who's playing with him? Like, that's still a big part of whether or not those 2 guys are going to be successful.
I mean, isn't that still the biggest question?
Yeah,
and
I think so.
And the hardest one to answer.
The hardest one to answer. Yeah,
it's like it's the eternal question here. So they're not getting any younger, but again, that's why it's like, whatever they have left, you better maximize what's around them next year and do everything you can to get the most out of them, which could be sacrificing that long term.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is, like, Stamkos in particular is having, he's clearly not impacting the game the way that we're used to seeing. He still very well could end up with, I don't know, 25, 26, 27 goals, somewhere around there this year, which is not what you want, but for an off year, just like, imagine if you get it figured out. Like, could he get back to, a 35 goal guy that's, a little bit more impactful with the assists? Like, again, that comes back to who he's playing with, but They got to get those two figured out next year. Like, you can't have them struggling out of the gate next year, or yet you just not gonna have a chance.
Right. Zach Curtis says, if they do this next year, is Trotz on the hot seat? I mean, look, I can't sit here and tell you I know how people are viewing things at the top. It is different at the top now. So, what are you smiling about?
Nothing.
You have to say it now. I've called it out publicly.
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You laughing at the idea of Trotz being fired?
No,
I'm not. No, I mean, yeah. Look, I think obviously at some point you have to look at. Oh God, this is Big Joe. You're such a clown. Big Joe, do something other than fake texting us all day. My God. Doesn't he like box? Go box. Go punch yourself.
Just want to throw it out there that I did not reveal the text. I just laughed.
Who is Zach Curtis, by the way?
He's my best friend.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe it was like a character from like Mr. Belvedere, his favorite show in 1985.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Interesting conversation that Stilly brought up yesterday as it relates to the Titans and maybe a member of the organization that, in his view, is not receiving enough criticism. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Wednesday morning. Talking Titans, we'll have Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com with us a little bit later in the program. Got a lot to get into with PK. So, Joe, I was listening to Stilly yesterday, and he brought up an interesting conversation. So we've talked ad nauseum about the blame and how much is to go around here for the Titans from what we've seen from them, going from a team that was consistently winning their division to a team that is now, as of last year, the worst team in the National Football League. And we've talked a lot about ownership and Amy Adams-Strunk and the role that she's played in that downfall that we've seen here. We've talked about some bad hires that they've had. Obviously, Rand Carthon did not work out as general manager. You fired Vrabel, you fired John Robinson, and now we'll see kind of what this next iteration looks like with Brinker / Borgonzi and crew, and what that means for Brian Callahan. Still, he brought up yesterday a person that we don't talk about a lot, and that is Burke Nihill of the Titans. And I'll let Stilly kind of take it from here before we pick up the discussion, but his was his thoughts and his vote of no confidence on Burke Nihill of the Titans yesterday.
But can I just ask this question? Who's holding them accountable? Who's holding Burke Nihill accountable for the fact that, again, he inherited a well-running franchise and has since run it into the ground? Who's holding Chad Brinker accountable? We're pretending like every decision that was made over the last 2 years had nothing to do with Chad Brinker, even though he was here and paid by the team. And yet, it's not Chad Brinker and Burke Nihill, the people in charge, or at least at some point in charge, that get the brunt of the blame. Apparently, it's the PR director, who is incredibly respected by the local media, the national media, and the entire NFL. This reminds me so much of that Texans disaster that it hurts. And the only way the Texans got their feet on the ground was getting rid of the problem. It's not fun to say this, because I like Burke Nihill, but yesterday for me was the final straw. I have no confidence in his leadership of this organization.
So that was Stilly yesterday on his show, talking about president and CEO of the Titans, Burke Nihill, and the firing of Robby Bourne, which we talked about yesterday. Again, not as the chief reason of what Stilly brought up, but kind of like just the final straw and representative of other decisions that have gone down here. So what do you make of what he had to say on Burke Nihill there? And where does Burke Nihill, in your mind, kind of fall in line with all of the criticism that we've talked about with the Titans?
I love that. I like Burke Nihill. Although he has run this franchise into the ground and needs to be sent out of Nashville immediately. But I like him. I like you, Burke. Yeah, look, I mean, Burke has to – I can't sit here and pretend – here's how I view Burke Nihill. I think Burke Nihill is Amy's right hand. I mean, I think Burke Nihill is Amy's whatever, however you want to phrase it. So, then it gets into the question of, okay, so how much then is on him specifically, and how much is just he happens to be the person who speaks for her and it's on her, right? But look, I mean, like this we talked about it yesterday with Robby, and again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know the conversations or I know exactly who said what or believed what or but obviously you're looking at Burke Nihill, and to me he's at the top of the power food chain here in Nashville, right? So I have to look at any decision like this and look at him first. And that was a brutal decision, and I can speak with confidence on that because I know those jobs, and I know how Robby went about it. I know Big Joe's like, it was a love letter to Rob. The point was not, a love letter to Robby Bourne. The point was, I think the Titans are screwing this stuff up. And it looks that way with other people too. Again, we're going to have Kuharsky in today. I think Kuharsky can speak with more authority on some things than I can. But I don't know that I would compare. He's talking about Jack Easterby with the Texans. Now, there was some weird stuff with Jack Easterby, right? That I've not seen here. But I will say that it's gone poorly. I don't like how he's gone about his business on some things that I do know of. I don't like how he's just gone about his business. And I think it's fair to question him as much as anybody. Again, it's like Amy has, I think, entrusted him. So what does that mean? You know, again, is he making decisions that are bad
Right.
on his own? Is he just doing her bidding, basically?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know what the answer to that is either. And again, like at the end of the day here, it comes back to the owner, regardless of whether he is, at major fault here or not. Like the owner is ultimately responsible for some of the decisions that we're talking about here. So I think it's important to keep that in perspective here. Now, having said that, as Stilly brought up, thinking back to when Amy Adams Strunk took over the Titans, who was a huge part in helping her turn this organization around. It was Steve Underwood, right?
Yep.
I mean, Steve Underwood played a big part in that. And then, I mean, we could talk about coincidence, we could talk about whatever, but basically, since Steve Underwood's gone, that's when the other way kind of started to happen here. Now, look, in 2020, they won the division. They got put out in the first round of the playoffs, but they won the division. They were the number 1 seed in 2021, and then we all know what happened.
Football
in the
was
playoff game
good.
there. So
Yeah.
the football continued to be good for the next couple years, and then starting basically when they fired John Robinson the next year, it was a total disaster.
Yeah,
So,
they had good football people.
actually,
in the
probably
place.
starting when they traded AJ Brown. It was a total disaster.
That's a big part of it. But yeah, I mean, they had good football people. They were winning. So again, like how much? I mean, Burt Nihill was here for that too. He was here
Right.
during that stretch and didn't. I'm not going to put AJ Brown on him. That'd be quite a story.
Yeah,
if
that would
Burt
be.
got in there, guys. How about AJ? I don't think that's what happened. But he's kind of become the. I mean, look, he's kind of become the face of like what the heck are they doing? And again, a lot of these moves, I can't speak to most of them in terms of like pretending that I know on a daily basis. I think that when you lose a lot of people like this and you move on, I think you lose something. I think you got to be real careful with that. I know that this last one was stupid.
Well, and the big question here, and this relates to Berg Nihill, this relates to Amy Adams Strunk, is do the Titans have a leadership problem that is big enough to the standpoint of it's going to hinder them from getting out of this? That's really the question, right? Like is Amy Adams Strunk and just what seems like making decisions by which way the wind is blowing at the time. First off, how much of a role is Burke Nihill playing in that? Does he have any power when it comes to some of those decisions? But the bottom line is, between Amy Adams Strunk, Burke Nihill, the people running this organization, are they incompetent to the point where it's going to be a huge problem for the Titans to find their way out of this? Or have they hired the right people in Borgonzi and Brinker that can navigate their way out of this? One thing that Stilly said that I agree with, that somehow we keep just glossing over here, like Chad Brinker's been a part of this. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't figure some things out moving forward here, but Chad Brinker right now plays a role in this too, in terms of why it's gotten this bad. And that doesn't mean that he's doomed to failure, but he is not, free in this discussion here.
Oh, not at all. And, with Burke Nihill, I mean, obviously, if you really look at like what his job is and what he's focused on, and you can look at the stadium situation and say he's done a heck of a job.
Right.
I'm looking at his bio. He was named Most Admired CEO by the National Business Journal, by the way.
That's good.
Yeah, there you go. But, I mean, that's been obviously a huge focus of the franchise. I do know that in some of these situations, where, like, especially I think when Amy wants something done media-wise, it has been Burke dealing with stuff like that and not anyone in actual comms. Is that good or bad? I don't know. But, I mean, that happens in some of these organizations too. The owner's right-hand man or woman kind of takes over situations like that. And look, there's been some. Again, I'm interested to hear what Kaharski has to say about this. But You're right. Brinker is, he's been a part of this, and he's trying to sort of act like this is a new era, and it's not.
We'll continue the discussion on Titans leadership coming up next. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode here on 1025, 1063 The Game. This week's Nashville's best deal is Boomba's Pizza and Watch Bar. Just in time for the NCAA tournament, score half off a $30 gift card and enjoy their award-winning pizza and handcrafted beverages. Visit them in Nashville, Spring Hill, or Murfreesboro. Visit thegamenashville.com/deals while supplies last. Robby and Rexrode here with you on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, discussing Titans and their leadership in the organization, taking your thoughts on that. Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Ben to the program. Ben, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. So I think that you're 100% right to be concerned about the leadership, and I'll be honest with you, I think history has already shown us that if your owner isn't on the same page with the rest of the staff, that the front office and the coaches and so on and so forth, you're going to be doomed to, just being horrible. Look at the Cowboys. Look at what my beloved Patriots are going through right now. I think Kraft has had too much influence recently, and it's time for him to step back. It's been proven time and time again. Like I said, Dallas is a perfect example of that. And I think that Amy's too quick to fire. I don't think she's really a football person. I don't think she's ever been. And honestly, God rest her soul, I don't think her dad was either. So I'll hang up and I'll let you guys talk. Thanks for taking my call.
Yep, thanks for the call, Ben. Appreciate it. I mean, that's the fundamental question with the organization is the leadership. Is it good enough to get this thing back to a team that can be competitive? Like, ultimately, you've hired Mike Borgonzi, you've hired Chad Brinker, and if they make the right decisions, I mean, frankly, right now, if they draft the right quarterback, like if Cam Ward comes in and he's a great player, well, that's going to say probably more about the future of your organization than anything else. Like, take Cincinnati. Cincinnati, for the most of my life, has been near the bottom of the NFL, right? Like, I mean, they had their run with Andy Dalton, which we've talked about, where they were a good regular season team. But by and large, the Bengals have been terrible throughout my lifetime. And then they draft Joe Burrow and things change. So when you get great players, that ultimately is more important than anything else, particularly at quarterback. But I do think, over the last couple of years, Joe, we've had a lot of conversations about Amy Adams-Strunk and ownership and the leadership of this franchise. And the way that some things have gone around here, I mean, the Titans have been in conversations with the Browns and the Jets as it comes to, like, where you're currently standing with NFL franchise. And that is not where you want to be if you're the Titans.
Yeah, that's not great company. I mean, like you said, if the football people make good choices, football coaches and football players do their jobs well, then we don't care about
Right.
Burke Nighhill. Again, I think the primary focus of his job has been stadium stuff, which has all gone well for them. But then you get into something like this, and it's like, okay, so who's messing this up? One question I would have, and I see that PK has come in here. One question I would have is, Burke Nighhill, is he someone who's comfortable, going back up to Amy and saying, no, this is a bit,
Right.
or is he purely a yes man? And my perception of Steve Underwood is that he was someone who had the guts and the I'm struggling for the word. There you go. Cachet is a good word. Yeah, the credibility to be able to maybe push back on some things. And I don't know that Burke does. I'm very interested to hear PK's thoughts on this. And look, like the Robby decision. Okay. So, I mean, this goes back to like when Amy Adams-Strunk was like 40 years old or whatever, he joined the organization. He's been there forever. I mean, obviously, they've been very happy with his job performance over decades, right? So why is this move now? Is this as simple as like Borgonzi wants his guy in there in that job? This is where you lose continuity, where you should have continuity in your organizations, while the mercenaries who might be here for 3-4 years,
Right.
fundamentally change things, which to me is a real problem. But again, these are all things that I'd like PK to weigh in on.
And we welcome Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com to the program. PK, how we doing?
Good morning. Let me speak to that guy who said this is just like Dallas. It's not at all like Dallas. Jerry Jones is the most outspoken owner in the league. Amy Adams-Strunk is the most invisible person in the league.
Other than that, it's pretty close.
Dallas is dysfunctional. Titans are way more dysfunctional.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's so much going on in this market right now where there's a Stockholm syndrome where people just kind of accept what's going on. I don't know. maybe the Twitter thing is out of control in terms of not representing the real world, but in terms of firing the PR director, so many people are like, hey, I don't care, which is fine. You don't have to care. But if you want to know what's going on with the organization and its dysfunction, it's an important development.
It's a symptom, and I think people don't get that.
Yeah. And B, this other thing where like, well, they're, they need some change after all of this time, or you're upset that your number one source is fired, or all of this stuff. Listen, you have to step back at some point and concede, whether you like me or not. For some reason, the rest of the media is largely silent on this thing. I don't really understand it. There are people who cover the team closely and know the people who are involved in stuff who want to tell you what's going on over there and what it means. So shh for a second and listen and learn about it. You don't know these inside people. I understand that. But there's meaning to what's going on there. Again, if you only want to know about football players, that's fine.
Yep.
But if you want to know about the functioning of the organization, don't the guy never gave me a story in his life. That's not what these guys do.
Yeah.
That's the way he would have gotten fired.
Exactly.
I tried to explain on the text on yesterday, like, guys, like sources for stories are not PR people. That's just not how it works.
And he doesn't know a lot of the information that he learned a lot of the information from me.
Well, and again, like I understand if you're a Titans fan out there and you've heard the conversation about Robby Boren getting fired, the PR director, and you're like, okay, like why do I care about that part of it? But as we've discussed, it's not so much about that. I mean, I think that part of it's a big deal, but I understand why Titans fans don't really care about that. It's the symptom of what that represents and the dysfunction that continues to take place in this organization that's been seemingly nonstop for the last 4 years.
The Burke conversation is a good one. Listen, there's broccoli to be eaten on your sports plate. That's an important part of the meal. I'm a Yankees guy. Hal Steinbrenner isn't my favorite element of the Yankees. I'd much rather hear about Aaron Judge, but a lot of the Aaron Judge stuff relates to what Hal Steinbrenner's doing. Do I want to know that, or do I blindfold myself and plug my ears? I mean, you want to be an educated fan or not?
We'll have more with PK coming up next. A lot more to get into on this conversation. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. PK is with us for the rest of the show, talking all things Titans. We'll take your questions for him as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com with us for the rest of the program, talking all things Titans. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/getitall. Discussing Titans leadership with PK here. So, PK, where do you come down on the Burke Nihill part of this? As we've discussed, the stadium deal is a big part of what his job is here, and he's not, quote unquote, a football guy, but he is a part of the leadership here. And, we talked about when A.B. Adams-Strunk, first kind of took over as controlling owner, Steve Underwood, and the role that he played in this organization. So where do you come down on Titans leadership, the role that Burke Nihill plays, and how symptomatic he is of the problems that we've seen around here over the last few years?
Well, I'd certainly like to talk to him about this stuff. Look, I think the stadium deal trumps everything, and he will be in that job as long as he likes. I mean, getting a $2.2 billion stadium off the ground and done, is trumps everything, and it is a big deal for Amy Adams-Strunk, the city, all of that.
Sure.
But on the football side, he likes to act as if he doesn't want to be involved in football situations. I'll advise when I'm asked and all that. I think he likes very much to be asked.
He's the one who always brings the phone for Amy's firings, right? Like, I got Amy on FaceTime. Thanks, Burke.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's,
And, I think he was one of the many people who had a problem with Mike Vrabel being such an alpha, but I think he's kind of a quiet alpha. I mean, he fires a lot of people. He's whether it's Amy or I think he's got some sway with Amy. And we've seen people like Ralph Ockenfels, who negotiated 2 stadium naming rights deals for a crap team on a crap building. Stuart Spears, who was instrumental in organizing the draft here, that was a raging success. The Amy Adams-Strunk, I think, was really big on that one. But these firings right after the season, Anthony Pastrana, who's the video guy, Brent Akers, who's the ops guy, who you never heard a bad thing about, that plans the flights and the hotels and all of that. I mean, if something goes wrong there, you hear about it. You never heard about anything there. Now, Robby Boren, a little bit of a silent assassin there. Who in replacing all of these people have we ever heard anything about? Now, I don't know. Maybe there's some people that have filled in another thing and it keeps him absolutely quiet so that he gets credit for anything that's going well. But he has hired and quickly fired several other people in the building.
Yeah, there have been some very short tenures in the last few years. Very short tenures.
Gil Beverly was a guy that came and had like 4 different titles in 4 years and was fired and was widely regarded as a disaster. If you're over there and you've worked long term, I'd get your resume out and be scared to death. And I think, he's got like slogans up on the wall and all of this stuff. I mean, I think he thinks it's a very good place to work. I think everybody that works there is scared to death the same way, ironically, that they were scared of Mike Vrabel. And Mike Vrabel was a buddy guy too. He's a great guy, right? Being around him. But I think you're scared of Mike Vrabel, like you get on the wrong side of Mike Vrabel and you were in trouble. And it's very much the same with Burke Nihill now.
Is there
and this may have started with somebody else. This may have started with Borgonzi, but Nihill has the power to protect them. But I'll say this other thing that I think is important, right? We're talking about people who I know did very good work. There are other people over there that I'm friendly with who do not do good work. What they do is kiss Amy Adams-Strunk's ass very well. And they are untouchable.
You can name some names?
Off the air, sure.
So is there a common thread with these? Like, is it like, do you see it as
and just let me go back there for 1 second. Maybe it's till you get younger and cheaper. These people who I'm talking about who kiss Amy Adams-Strunk ass very well.
Yeah, keep saying that word. No,
Yeah,
appreciate it.
it's allowed, right?
Yeah, I guess.
George,
It
I
is.
just saw something from George Carlin. He listed the 7 words. That wasn't one of them.
AASASS. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, how about that?
They make it like that's not a thing. Burke Nihill put out a very strong quote when they fired the 4 guys at the end, right at the end of the season, Pastrana
What you wrote about.
and Akers, Albertson, the security guy, and Carthon's right-hand man, Anthony Robinson, who you knew was on his way out. And he said, these are tough times, but we have to meet a standard. Well, that standard doesn't apply if you're Amy's person. We have to meet a standard, except for these people over here who are Amy's people. And those people have no standard. Their standard is Amy loves them.
I mean, how does that's the thing. If that's how it's going to be, it's just, again, you get lucky. Cam Ward's great. You draft him and everybody looks better, right? I mean, the football product gets better. Everybody looks better. Maybe Brian Callahan's a good coach. But from that part of the organization, it's just, it's bad. It doesn't look good.
Well, it's not. When you start to break all that down, it's not a surprise they are where they are, which is the point. Like that's the point in all of this. Whether you care about the firing of Robby Boren or not, that's the point in all of this. Is you don't get to be in the dregs of the NFL by accident. Like that does not happen by accident, and that's where they are right now. And it's hard to have confidence that they're getting out of this, short of Cam Ward being a great player. Which again, I'm with you. That's the only thing that really matters at the end of the day. But their organization is poorly run.
You're giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Cam Ward could be great. Our organizations screw up great players all the time. This one,
well, I'm saying, like he needs
is
to
a
be
prime
great for
candidate
them.
to screw them up.
Sure.
Prime candidate. So, I mean, if you're out there thinking Cam Ward's going to fix all of this, I'm sorry. And I know I'm on the pessimistic side of things. I'm not a true believer in Cam Ward, but I think he's got a great chance. He could come in here and they could totally mess him up.
Which happens a lot in the NFL.
It happens more than it doesn't.
And here's the other thing about Burke. We're talking about the people he's sending out. Look at the people he's brought in. Some of them are anonymous background people. He was instrumental in hiring Rand Carthon. He was instrumental in hiring Brian Callahan.
And listen, real quick.
And he washed his hands of Rand Carthon in 2 years. Pretty good. Oh, the job has changed. The job has changed. No, what changed is you hired a guy who was not good at all. And I hear more and more. I know people think I've got some personal thing against Rand Carthon. I've got a reporting thing about Rand Carthon. And people are telling me more and more. If you want a GM that's playing some form of Candy Crush during meetings, you got the guy. Good job, Burke.
Candy Crush?
It wasn't Candy Crush per se. It was some,
I know what he's saying.
a game.
I mean, I was going to say that'd be. Imagine playing Candy Crush
Well,
and then
and by
taking
the
a
way,
nap. Holy crap!
One thing that that I've not brought up on this that bothered me severely the other day when I saw the Robby Boren news, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but I kind of think it was. It's like, well, we're going to fire him, but let's wait until Cam Ward's pro day where everybody else is distracted about Cam Ward and talking about Cam Ward, and then we'll just dump it and we'll just fire him on that same day.
Yeah.
Who do we think gave it to Teresa? Like, do we think Robby gave it to Teresa, or do we think the team gave it to Teresa?
I don't know.
I think Robby probably gave it to Teresa.
I don't know. No one cares about that either.
I mean,
I know you care
amongst us.
Yeah, we're on the air right now. By the way, coming up next, I think my rant is going to be a rant of a text to you that I need to read.
Well, we'll get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot more coming on the Titans. Paul Kuharski with us for the rest of the program. We will have Rexrode's rant coming up next, which I'm excited to see. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
They don't love anybody, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's conceivable, and I think it's conceivable that it's just a dud year for quarterback for them.
I'll read the whole damn thing right now in your face. Here, read it. Come on, smart guy. Here it is.
I want to keep people awake and engaged. Yeah. I'll read it and I'll tell them what you actually said.
I'll take it right now. See, there's me just yelling for no reason. Now I get it. Uber guy, don't leave us, Uber guy. Uber guy, stay with us.
It's time for the segment that puts Joe Rexrode's long fuse on display every day. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. Paul Kuharsky is with us here on the program as well. Joseph, the floor is yours.
Long fuse. I forgot about Uber guy. I wonder if Uber guy has become a fan of our show.
Uber guy probably did not like your yelling yesterday about the tunnel in basketball. So
that was not a good long fuse moment yesterday. No, did you hear that one, PK?
I did not.
Yeah. Well, you got the we're talking about Robby Bourne and how he gets it. And did you see the UConn thing? The UConn SID who tried to. I'll ruin your life. Being in an area you're not supposed to be in. The only way you could possibly leave the arena is walking through the tunnel.
That's good power hunger,
what
too.
A clown.
He thinks he could ruin a guy's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Apparently they've talked. Apparently all is
well,
fine.
I mean, if he didn't go and apologize, his career was going to be ruined. Should still be ruined.
All right, so I'm going to read this because I think this is interesting. From Mark from Ashland City, a regular listener and contributor to the conversation on the text line driven by WilsonCountyHoney.com. He says, I think the disconnect is media. PK especially always complains about PR decisions made by the team. So to me, it sounds like they weren't allowed to do his job in the first place, him being Robby Bourne. From what I understand, they tried to move him to a different job. It didn't work. I'm not saying it's not a bad decision because I don't know. The media has attacked fans for not knowing, but what we know is the constant complaints about PR decisions this team has made. If the case is that they didn't let him do his job because the owner, we want to hear more about that instead of screaming at us that we don't know what we're talking about. We don't know. You're right. Please tell us. Okay. There you go. Mark from Ashland City. You just became the rant. Good job, Mark from Ashland City.
Well, let's clarify. And it's fair. PR is a universal decision. The PR strategy is not coming necessarily from the PR department. The PR department is executing the team's PR strategy. But when the team decides not to hold press conferences with their new players, that was not the PR department deciding, hey, let's change what we've done for our entire existence. That was somebody above PR, the organization changing its strategy, which then had to be executed by the PR department. And Paul Zimmerman, the great Paul Zimmerman from Sports Illustrated, told me this when I was starting my career, probably in 1995.
Dr. Z.
On a sideline in Oxnard, California, or in El Segundo, California, at a Raiders practice. The relationship between a good reporter and a PR department of a NFL team is always going to be adversarial. You want more access and more information, and they want you to have less access and less information. And you are always going to be warring about that. And I am always warring about that.
Let me interject really fast, though. But I think good PR people like Robby, they still want good stories told. Right. I mean, there are a lot of times when media and PR people are on the same page. Like, hey, things are going well. Let's tell why. Right. This player's amazing. Can I tell his actual human story? Yes. Here's time with him. Like that information they want. Obviously, when things get controversial or negative, that's where you're very adversarial.
Yeah. Or let's tell the story of how that play unfolded, or he's been working on that and here it came to fruition, right. Stuff like that. Plenty of stuff like that. But it's by nature adversarial relationship. I'm saying this guy was really good at managing that adversarial relationship. And other people are nowhere near as good at managing that adversarial relationship. I have a good relationship with a guy that I fought with on a regular basis. That sounds weird. He and his department don't hold grudges. I could have a big fight with him today and see him tomorrow and talk normally about the team and, whatever else is going on in our kids.
Which
and
requires people
which
who see
requires,
the big picture.
a certain understanding of how the job works, both from his end and from my end. And he had that with everybody, me being probably the chief example of it. I understand that's probably hard for a lot of you to care about that or wrap your head around it, but it's a fundamental element of how a team communicates its message.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, it comes back to beyond just the PR part of this. Who's running the organization? How are they running the organization? And how is that going to play out into what you do care about, which is the results on the field, right? Like, again, Cam Ward could come in and be great, and maybe not even the Titans could screw him up. We'll find out what happens here. Maybe they've hired the right people in Borgonzi and Brinker. Maybe Brian Callahan's a good coach after all. We're going to find out all those things.
And you say, a lot of people say, well, I don't care anything about how they handle Cam Ward PR wise, as long as he comes in and wins games. But it does factor in. If they bring in Cam Ward and they nest him and we'll let you ask 6 questions and then we'll say, that's it, guys. And you'll talk to him next week, and they baby him in a big way and nobody gets to talk to him and gets to know him. That's a certain coddling approach that is reflective of how they're handling him. And if they're loose and you can walk by his locker and say a few words to him or ask him about, that one thing you saw at practice or whatever, that's a different kind of approach with him, where he's allowed to be one of the guys more and isn't put in a bubble. And that tells you something about their approach with him. And a lot of people think that's meaningless, but it's not. I can tell you, and Joe can tell you, from being in NFL locker rooms and stuff, it's reflective of how they coach him and how they treat him in meeting rooms. And that helps us tell you about stuff that you, I think, as fans want to know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Some fans obviously want to know these. They're really into it. They want more information. And so there's a bigger picture there where a bad PR person can really restrict that. I understand when it comes down to it, you want your team to be good, but a lot of fans want more than that, right? They want a connection with the team.
Of course. But I guess, again, my point in all of this is, like, do you take the Jets and the Browns? Do you think that the Jets and the Browns for the last 15 years have just gotten incredibly unlucky time after time after time, and they just always like, well, it just didn't work out when we pick a quarterback, or, man, it hadn't worked out when we signed this deal, and it's just really unlucky? Is there some of that? Probably. But when it's over an extended period of time like that, and you were that bad for that long, there are fundamental problems in your organization, in a league that is designed for you to be able to be competitive and back in the pack very quickly with the way this league is set up. If you're a team that is perpetually awful, it is because you are poorly run. It's not because you're just unlucky for 20 straight years.
Wow.
And the Titans are being compared with those teams, and that is not what you want if you're a Titans fan.
And it's from the top, right? I mean, it's from the top. I think with both those organizations, again, let's go to the Detroit Lions. As I've said many times on the show, just forget about it, because ownership, since William Clay Ford bought the team, they are going to shoot up. Now, there's Sheila Ford actually seems to be competent, and it's funny how that
has coincided with the change of Ford.
Yeah, right. So I think it absolutely starts at the top, and usually that's where you look, and then it's hard. Then it's like you get into someone like Burke Nihill. It's like, I don't know. You tell me. Do you think that like Steve Underwood was more of a no, Bud? We need to do this, not that. Or yeah.
Steve Underwood guided a lot of Bud's best moments. Now he also endured a lot of Bud's worst moments.
Yeah, you can't like completely take over, but you need someone in that spot, which is basically Burke's spot, who can push back and help make better decisions.
And Burke had Steve Underwood's absolute blessing. So, I mean, that was big in Burke being Underwood's successor.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll get more into the Titans organization, the leadership structure, and this conversation later in the program. We will get into Cam Ward, his pro day, and how the picture around the draft is now shaping up with Russell Wilson to the Giants yesterday as well. All that coming up next with PK, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com with us for the next hour, talking all things Titans. We'll take your questions for PK 615-737-1025. PK, Cam Ward's pro day on Monday. He throws, had a nice rollout to his left, crossbody throw down the field. I don't really care about the on-field part of it because the pro day is what the pro day is. But now let's take a look at what's happened since then. So Russell Wilson signs with the Giants yesterday, which means they've now signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston at quarterback in the last week here. On the surface, PK, if they had just signed Russell Wilson or if they had just signed Jameis Winston, I don't think that would really change my view on like their interest level to get up to number one, because you could still sign one of those guys and draft Cam Ward or a quarterback at either number 3 or moving up to number 1. The fact that they've now got both, I think, does change my view on the Giants a little bit. So with all that coming in the fold, with Cam Ward's pro day, the comments that he had on the NFL Network about solidifying it for the Titans, and the actions that the Giants have now taken in the aftermath of that, how do you view all of that coming together? Do you feel like you can take the Giants off the board as a potential trade partner with the Titans at number 1 overall?
Well, people talk about the Titans doing things to make sure everybody, is well aware that they're in the Cam Ward market as, keeping people on their toes, which I don't think is that important if you're in the trade market, right? You want other people. I think the Giants here are making it so like, hey, well, we don't have to come up there. It's a total of $14.5 million guaranteed to these two guys. Winston, the report is $4 million guaranteed. I would throw away $4 million guaranteed if it's a move to, if things don't work out in the draft the way they want, you're spending $4 million guaranteed. B, you're saying, hey, we're not desperate to get to number 1 or to get Ward or Sanders if they came off the board 1, 2. I think it's a pretty good play by the Giants. I think they'd still rather have Ward or Sanders. I don't think the fan base is all that excited about these two guys. I don't think they're job savers for a GM and a coach that need to save their job. So I don't know at the root of it if it changes that much for the Giants, except maybe it alleviates things for the next 3.5 weeks. In terms of the outward pressure that they've got to make a move. I wouldn't be surprised to still see them make a move. I think maybe it lowers what they're willing to give up. And the question is, if the Titans are willing to deal out of there, what would they take from the Giants?
Okay, but then so to me, then if that's true, then you can take the Giants off the board, probably, right? I mean, maybe the Giants think the Browns are taking Abdul Carter, and they'll take Shedeur Sanders at 3. I just think it's weird to sign both of those guys. I understand what you're saying. The money,
Two bad veterans.
The money's not
Hey,
huge.
let's double down on bad veterans.
One of them,
and they
just
still
alternate
have
series.
They do have DeVito, is that right? They still have him?
He's there. Yeah.
DeVito's enough.
Quarterback.
DeVito's enough.
Hey, he's a cult hero. Quarterback bonanza.
Cult hero. They consider him a hero because he came in and lost all those games.
Just basically because his agent was on the.
He beat the crap out of my Packers one time.
Yeah,
so
see,
a heck of a night.
That's right.
I mean,
2 years ago.
It certainly adds the biggest layer of intrigue we've seen at quarterback so far with regard to what is and isn't going to happen. But I mean, everybody wants to lock in Cam Ward, and I certainly think it's closer than it's been. But Rappaport or somebody said it's not a done deal yet, and I tend to feel that I tend to feel that way. He's reporting that.
Okay, we were at, let's see, I'm at 99.6%. You're at what, 98.9%? The Cam Ward's the Titans quarterback next year, Robby, right?
That's correct.
Okay, where are you right now?
88.
Wow.
Okay.
Leaving 12%. That's a lot.
It's still pretty heavily in the favor of Cam Ward.
It is. Yes, it is. But I don't know. I just feel like I'm kind of dismissing the Giants because of this. Maybe I'm wrong for that.
Well, here's one thing too, though, on that front. And maybe this is, again, me just looking at a situation and reading way too much into it. I do find it interesting that the Giants were at Cam Ward's pro day, and then the next day they sign Russell Wilson. Is there a possibility that they were talking to the Titans, and the Titans are like, yeah, hey man, we're not trading out of number one, so don't waste your time.
And the Browns not sending top people there. People are reading as a concession that they're, Shador.
Yep.
And
Or
have
no
conceded.
border.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that maybe is being underthought is the idea of some Maverick team further out.
The Saints. We talked
Yeah,
earlier
and
in the show about the Saints.
really pumped up the Saints when given an opportunity to talk about the Saints. Ward himself talked about loving the idea of playing for New Orleans. That's spurred by something. So
trade back to
we'll
9.
see.
Yeah. So trading back to 9.
You'd probably
what
definitely
would
get
that
next
take?
year's first for that one.
You get
You're
next year's
definitely
first.
getting next year's
Definitely.
first. You're definitely getting into the third. You're getting a real bounty. I will say this. I and this is something I'm working on. I've been a big non-believer in the idea. I've had too much of a this is where I'm moving on Cam Ward. This idea that the Titans could be so disciplined as to see his warts and say, we're going to pass on him because of those warts, even though we're a quarterback needy team at the top, and he's the best quarterback, and he's pretty good, even though he's not Andrew Luck or even Joe Burrow, right? Where I'm not looking at the Browns and expecting they'd be that disciplined, or looking at the Giants and expecting they'd be that disciplined, even though organizationally they're at a different spot. And then saying, well, I expect it to be a far better quarterback pool next year, but I don't think that they'd have the number one pick. And so much of the draft resources they would get in this move down this year, they'd have to use to get up to get one of those guys next year. So that kind of cancels out the whole rationale for trading out this year. But Braden Gall points out to me that 2 times in very recent history, the Jaguars and the Browns have gone back-to-back number one.
Yep.
Oh, the Titans have a shot, man.
Yeah.
Oh, they got
I'm looking at their roster right now.
Yeah.
They got a shot.
And then also you've got the extra first-round pick that's got a shot of being number one
Pretty
next
high.
year, if in fact Cam Ward doesn't lead his team to great success next year. So I'm still a little bit torn on that. It would be easier if there was if there were 2 clear-cut great guys next year, and we've talked a lot about this. We need the year to play out before So it's really more dice rolling than you would like.
All right, I'm down to 97.2%.
Okay.
Talk me down.
All right. Will on Music Row says, can we define success for next year? 2 weeks ago, no fan wanted Cam Ward, and now we're all obsessed. If they draft him and he fails, it's Brinker's fault. And if he's successful, Rand was the problem the whole time. What's a realistic, successful outcome for next year organizationally?
You want a real simple definition? A good enough season that Brian Callahan is the coach in 2026. How about that?
I like that.
Yeah. That's
When you nod like that, people don't hear you.
we're on video, man. I was speaking also.
I will nod the whole time.
I'm just gonna give hand signals now.
Joe is broadcasting for the viewers.
Here. See these double middles? Yeah.
Can you do that? Is that FCC
I kept it
violation?
I kept it under the table.
You did. 615-737-1025, our phone number. More coming up next with PK on the Titans. We'll take more of your questions. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com with us here on the program, taking your questions for him. Ben from Cumberland City on the text line, throwing it out there. Says, PK, let's say it's a given the Titans draft Ward and make no other trades or bring in vets. Where do you see them versus the AFC South? For perspective, I'm a Colts fan, wondering from your point of view where we stack up compared to recent moves, current state of teams, hashtag don't block the box.
Well, thank you. And be sure to lock your locks. The Titans, who knows? I don't think they're going to be good. I don't think Jacksonville is going to be good. And I don't think the Colts are going to be good. So you're in a three-way scramble with two other awful teams.
Yeah, that's kind of how I view
with
it
Houston, way ahead, presuming that their offensive line rebuild and the offensive revamp goes well. But even if it doesn't, they'll be much better than everybody else.
I think Will's got a really important point here. He says, I think there's a direct correlation between PK's intensity on a given morning and the amount of lip smacking in the microphone. I envision him chewing up Tums and making his mouth unbelievably chalky. Probably more like ginger chews, right? You do have a little lip smacking that kind of
when
he gets fired up.
I'm unaware of that, so I appreciate people pointing it out, and
So
I'll concentrate on not doing it.
So that's good there. That was all good. That was dry run.
Oh, we got him doing that now and focusing on that. Rexrode speaking into the microphone rather than nodding. So this is a good start to the segment here coming up in
and no one's talking about male genitalia in relation to football.
Our best segment ever is happening right now.
It really is.
Stay tuned in.
Yeah, take your pants off for this segment.
Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Cody to the program. Cody, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, guys. How we doing?
Doing good.
Great.
Hey, listen, I've been listening to you guys for 11 years. I'm not a Nashville native. I'm a New York Giants fan. And when you guys were talking about bad ownership, I just finally had to bite the bullet and call in. John Mara and the New York Giants need to be in that conversation about the Jets and the Browns about horrible ownership. We've had 6 coaches in 10 years, and we have 6 first-round draft picks out of 13 in 10 years on our roster still.
I'm sorry you don't get in the conversation. You know why? Look at the Lombardi trophies in your lobby.
Does it matter?
It does matter. That's the thing. All you want is now. You have history, relatively recent history.
Okay, I get that, but still, it's atrocious.
It's been a bad run.
The conversation.
Yeah, it's been a bad run, but I think
I
think you got to earn it over a long period of time. Now, granted, the Titans, the Titans have kind of been. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that they were good.
Yeah, they'd never come close to a Lombardi. They came within a yard of tying a game one time. That's nothing compared to what the Giants have done. But listen, I obviously your team's a mess, and it starts with the inability to hire functional coaches.
Right.
But Coughlin still is not that long ago.
Right. Exactly. Oh, it's kind of hilarious now because especially with the Hard Knocks last year, you can look back on the owner saying, man, I'm just going to have a tough time sleeping if Saquon ends up in Philadelphia. And then he ends up in Philadelphia and wins the Super Bowl. So it's hilarious that it's worked out that way. But yeah, Giants, that's been the Giants thing, right? Like they'll be bad for a long stretch of time, and then they'll just randomly go win Super Bowls.
But there's the owner. Like on the one hand, you say, well, the owner is self-aware to see that was going to be a problem. And then he lets his guy, his person execute things that it unfolds exactly the way he doesn't want it to unfold.
Yeah.
So that's pretty terrible ownership.
But still, like compared to Woody Johnson,
yeah, right. Or Amy Adams Strong.
Yeah. It's very interesting. There's people on the text line that think we're crazy for comparing the Titans to the Browns and the Jets because the Titans were a number 1 seed not that long ago. I understand it from that point of view. Now the Browns have won a playoff game, I believe, more recently than you have. So there is that to also factor in as well. So
no, I agree with that. I tell people oftentimes to look at, long suffering teams as compared to the Titans who were, the number 1 seed not that long ago in the AFC Championship game, not that long ago. I think Titans fans tend to overdo it like that they've been this incredibly long suffering team and haven't, oh my God, it's been 4 seasons since we've been good.
Yeah. I mean, look, 10 years ago, it seems like it's about a 10-year cycle of rock bottom
Yep.
and then cycling up. Problem is when they cycle up
They don't do well
with
enough.
different people, but they don't quite cycle up enough. They have a number 1 seed in 08 and they botch it. They have a number 1 seed in 21 and they botch it. At least they have number 1 seeds.
So we know
right. It could be worse, but they are a mid franchise overall.
So back on the Cam Ward front, we know, because I mean you've pointed this out long ago, that the Titans are going to have a private workout with Cam Ward.
Yeah, no, that's a new report from
Schefter presented that yesterday as if
reported
that's
on
some
February
new
28th.
information.
These
We've
guys.
talked about that with you. So we know that the private workout is coming. Shedeur Sanders doesn't have his pro day until April the 4th. So again, we're all talking about Cam Ward right now. I think there's a pretty big difference between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, certainly in the mind of most NFL people and the way that he's viewed here. But do you feel like as we get closer to this thing, like let's say Shedeur Sanders, they've got his pro day coming up, I think at the end of next week. Are the Titans going to send the same crew out to Colorado in your mind, where it looked like they sent basically the entire organization the other day to go watch Cam Ward?
I certainly would doubt it. I don't know what else is going on April 4th. But I wouldn't expect to see, the big four, which is Brinker, Borgonzi, McKenzie, Ziegler, plus Callahan, Holtz, and Hardigree. I wouldn't expect it. Maybe they do it for show to make like it's a possibility. I mean, I don't think there's a scenario where they're drafting Sanders.
That's not very financially responsible if they send the whole and are they going to take him out to
they
his
fired
nice
the
dinner,
PR director. They saved some money there.
Yes, so. They darn firing a lot of people. It is like what really, if we're convinced that like if they draft a quarterback at 1, it's Cam Ward, and everybody believes that.
Yeah.
And what is it just as a like almost being polite to go
courtesy?
out there?
Well, I could say that they're saying there's a trade down possibility where they take Sanders if they're playing that game for appearances.
Yeah,
that would be the rationale, I think.
What if they move to 9 and get Shedeur Sanders? I like him better than Cam Ward, for the record. So I think that'd be an incredible outcome for them, actually.
Trading back to 9, getting the picks and getting Sanders.
Yeah,
that'd be something.
I mean,
now, Sanders going to make it down that far?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Could go to Cleveland.
It's possible.
He could.
But I mean, if you're banking on that, it's dangerous game.
But I guess to your point, though, that is why you do your due diligence and things like this.
Right.
But are they going to send everybody out there and have their little, yucking it up with him out on the field like they did here? They sure seemed comfortable and
they did
with Cam Ward.
I mean, I did think, and I wrote about this when he had that role left and went over there and said, "I'm solidifying it today." I thought the reaction of Brinker and Borgonzi being right there and hearing that was like, if there's a Cam Ward Titans mythology to be written, that's on the first page of it.
Yep, I would agree with that.
You're already planning that, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe this is the one.
The one that gets me a book.
There you go. That's what it really is about here. That's what really matters.
615.
I covered a team since 1996, and there's no book. Give me a book.
Need one coming up. 615-737-1025. More for PK. Coming next. More of your questions to get to on the Titans front. We'll do that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com. We probably should point out that in relation to the Colorado Pro Day, Travis Hunter might be there. So
Yeah, good text by a texter there to point that out. Since I'm the guy who's like, yes, that's what they should do right now.
Since that's your guy,
so they should probably
you might
all be
remember
there.
that he's at that pro day.
You might think that I might remember that. Yeah, I mean, I assume he's going to be at that, right?
I would
I
assume.
guess if you're him, it's like,
Does it really? I mean, do you really have to do anything if you're him?
you
Probably
don't.
not.
You
but-
really don't. Texter's asking about again, the trade up thing we talked about earlier, Robby. The trade up thing with the Giants. Giants not going to use one of those veterans to trade up now. And as you pointed out, again, those guys are just sitting around.
Those guys were both
they've been sitting around for weeks.
Yeah, Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson were both available a few days ago, and nobody signed them except the Giants.
So the texter says, then WTF are the Giants doing?
That's a great
And that's what everybody's
That's a great
saying. Yeah, you speak for the people.
I don't know. To answer your question, I have no idea.
They're being the Giants.
Yeah,
but they've got quarterbacks.
They do.
Maybe they'll add another one.
They do.
I mean, this is recency bias, I'm sure. You guys tell me if I'm wrong, but like you look at the top of this draft, the three teams at the top of this draft. I mean, they are just terrible, and like having these three picks. Like usually, you'd say, well, this guy's gonna spark them and go. Like the Titans with Cam Ward. The Browns with Shedeur Sanders or Abdul Carter, the Giants with Shedeur Sanders or Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. These three teams are still mismanaged and horrible.
I mean, how many years do we look at the top of the draft and say that team's doing really
No,
well?
I know, but just the level of dysfunction of these three teams, I think, is extra extraordinary.
I agree, but it's also
extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
I like it.
Extra.
But also, it seems kind of weird that the Jets wouldn't be in that.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Where are they? By the way,
I think they're 7.
Wow.
7.
Yeah. I think Raiders are 6. They're
Yeah,
7.
6.
Congrats, Jets. Yeah. Congrats, Jets fans.
I mean, there are 2 other dysfunctional organizations all the way up there at 6 and 7.
That's true.
Well, I'm sure the Raiders
can trade back.
turn it around though.
Yeah, they got Geno.
Now that they got terrific Tom in place, the Pharaoh.
Caleb on the text line says you could trade back, get Travis Hunter, and get Jalen Milroe in round 2.
Ooh,
That's
boy.
a name I haven't heard thrown out that much for the Titans.
As they say.
I'm running away from that one.
Well, if not him, Jackson Dart. I mean, I watched him play on Saturdays. They're great.
Hey, Milroe ran a 4.37 at his pro day. He can run.
Oh,
He can run a speed option the whole time.
Can't throw, but look at him run.
he can
It's like
he
Forrest.
He can throw. He can throw some amazing passes, and then he can miss some passes that you cannot possibly miss and play in the NFL.
I was telling you yesterday off the air because they had Kalen DeBoer on Good Morning Football yesterday, just going through like some Alabama stuff with him. And it's like, go back and watch that Tennessee-Alabama game this year and look at how many throws Milroe just missed that are 11 yards down the field. I mean, they would have won the game by 2 touchdowns had he hit like 5 of those throws.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's weird to me because I did kind of believe in him early last year. Like, okay, takes another step, you might have something, but I think he got worse. Which surprised me with Kalen DeBoer too, because I thought maybe he would help him get better, and he didn't.
Don't spend it early first on Milroe. Trade it for Milton.
There you go. I got a real question for you, PK. Scott from Hendersonville. If we end up taking Ward at 1, still horrible next year, do you let Callahan stick around because it's rookie quarterback, or are we going to continue the cycle of firing GM, firing a coach, et cetera, et cetera?
I mean, you got to see what the context of next year's badness is. Are they on the rise? Does Ward show steady progress? I don't think it's a straight record thing. What else have they put around them? How are those guys doing? A lot of context there for me.
I feel like, obviously Bill Callahan is a big draw of having Brian Callahan. Last year, you didn't have these magical results, but I almost feel like that's a big part of the evaluation, right? It's like, oh, now You're seeing it with Bill Callahan. Look how much better the offensive line is. Now you want to kind of keep that going, or if it's another year of underwhelming results, and it's kind of like, well, Well,
I
he
think-
lost his fastball.
To me,
I think that's totally fair.
To me, it would be all about Cam Ward in that situation. Like if you feel
Progressive.
like Cam Ward is progressing and making meaningful progress throughout the year, and you don't want to disrupt that, then I think that's how you base your decision. Like to me, it would have almost nothing to do with record.
And you
Unless you're
absolutely
like-
wouldn't want to disrupt that.
Right. Exactly.
I
So,
also don't think that happens if he doesn't have a much better offensive line this year. Right?
I would agree.
Yeah.
And I
not
also
gonna
like
happen.
if he is making some of those that progress, it's probably going to pay off in the record to some regard. Like it doesn't mean you're going to be a playoff team, but it's hard. It can happen, but it's hard to have like a lot of meaningful progress being displayed in your quarterback and you end up 3-14 again next year. You can do it, but it's a very difficult thing to pull off.
I mean, the roster is bad enough
No,
that
it
it's
is bad.
possible
Yeah,
right
don't
now at this
discount-
moment.
Don't discount what this team's capable of, Robbie. Come on.
That's a good point. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Mike to the program. Mike, good morning.
Michael.
Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Doing good,
Great.
man.
Hope everyone's well. All right, I got a question for PK. Do you think maybe the Giants are trying to call the Titans bluff by maybe signing Winston and Wilson, but still offering? Is this possible? Maybe they could be like, all right, well, we'll give you a one and still trade, and then throw in maybe Winston. Trade like maybe Jameis Winston and next year's one. What I'm
Guys,
trying to say is I don't think it's completely
Jameis
dead that they're not
Winston
going to
has
try to
been
trade up.
available forever. Why would the Titans now consider him some sort of sweetener in a trade
they could
when
have signed
could have
James
had
Winston
him?
6
Because
days ago.
Yeah, he's been
Well,
sitting
I'm
there
saying
for weeks.
Maybe the Giants haven't offered anything that made the Titans consider. But if they do, if they get desperate and they're like, okay, we'll fold, we'll give you what you want, and then give you, Winston.
And we'll force
go
you to
along.
take Winston too. You
Yeah.
must take Winston as part of this trade.
That doesn't make any deal more attractive. It makes every deal less attractive.
I mean,
agree.
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you for
we
calling.
all ganged up on Mike, but yeah, it's been a theme today. And people have
Well,
asked
no,
about this.
I just
We signed a guy that you didn't want to sign, and now we're going to give him to you, force him on you in a trade.
well, if anything, if I'm the Titans, if that's the way you wanted to do it, if you're the Giants, it's now going to cost you more.
Right.
Like the price isn't going down with you doing that. It's going to cost you more. Like
Yeah.
to me,
Add another third rounder next year.
I'm more and more on the train of you can cross the Giants off the list as it comes to trade partners with the Titans. I mean,
I would think so.
I don't think it makes any sense for them to double down on Wilson and Winston if their plan is still to just try to move
I
on.
smoke weed constantly. I think that
Attaboy.
I think they would happily burn $4 million to have Cam Ward. And that's all that burning Winston is. And I would
Yeah.
actually love to see Jameis Winston toyed with like that.
Wow.
Sucker.
Some Jameis
Yeah.
hate.
And did you enjoy our 4 weeks with our organization?
What do you have against Jameis? Jeez.
What I have against Jameis is that everybody thinks, oh, Jameis is so fascinatingly interesting, when what it is that Jameis is an idiot.
That's my
Look
guy.
at this idiot.
I don't know. I think he's. I think sometimes.
Oh,
he
look
says,
at the funny clown.
I think he
is
says some
funny.
really cool stuff sometimes.
He does.
And sometimes some goofy
Yes,
stuff.
I'm going to eat a W and throw 4 picks.
How could you not be fired up in a pregame speech like that?
It's incomprehensible.
One of my favorite videos of all time is that speech, and some of the guys in Tampa just looking at him in the huddle like, what the hell is he doing out here? What's he talking
It's one
about?
of the all-time great motivators in sports.
I mean, yeah, he makes a work environment more interesting. Come on, right? I mean, you these guys like him.
What did you make of
I don't doubt that they like him. I'm not a big fan of foolishness.
Yeah, you're so serious and yeah, Mr. Ivy League over here.
PK? What did you make of Stephon Diggs to New England, another potential free agent target off the board at wide receiver? What do you make of that move and that money that he gets in New England with Mike Vrabel?
Oh, and a wide receiver, aging, coming off injuries, who's been locker room problem seemingly in his last 2 stops. What could go wrong?
Vrabel, coach him up, man. Vrabel knows what's up.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to follow. And look, if he plays like he can play, even a somewhat diminished version of himself, Drake May's got himself something there, but
I don't hate it.
There's reason to be skeptical
Sure.
of what they're getting.
It's a gamble. It's a 1 year overpay, basically, to gamble. But if it happens to work out, I think he could still be, if best case scenario health wise. And first of all, he has to have been humbled to some extent here. I mean, he's trying to stay in the league at this point, but I think he could be a decent 2 for you. And that's Drake May needs more options.
That's the Titans need to do something like that. Now it doesn't have to be with Diggs, but like I don't care if you're overpaying for a wide receiver for 1 year to try and help out a rookie quarterback. Maybe it doesn't work. Like maybe it is Lockett and you bring him in and he's just done as a player. But you got to have some guys right now. I mean, look at that. And look, there's still time to do it. But I mean, you can take another one off the list yesterday, and Diggs probably wouldn't have been my choice. But I mean, Cooper's out there, Lockett's out there. And I know that none of those guys are exciting, but you need guys to come in and try to help your rookie quarterback if you're going to take him at number 1.
But see, maybe it's Lockett if they only draft 1, and maybe it's Elijah Moore if they draft 2.
Yeah.
Or maybe they think they can get away with nothing if they draft 2.
It's hard for me to get there.
Yeah, and especially just drafting 2 with what they have right now leaves. Obviously, they're not going to address everything, but that leaves some serious holes elsewhere.
It would be great when we get to a day where we don't say they're not going to be able to address everything.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't it be great if we got to a day where they actually like drafted a guy and they go, yeah, next year he'll be a great replacement for X free agent who probably leaves because they can't afford him.
3 years ago, they had a pretty good team. 3 years.
Then they did.
Then they traded A.J. Brown.
Exactly.
No. But too many people cite A.J. Brown as the beginning of the end, and the beginning of the end was earlier than that. His name was Isaiah Wilson.
That's fair.
Wes from Hermitage says, I won't stand for the Jackson Dart hate, PK. He's the best quarterback in the draft. He'll have a better NFL career than Ward Sanders. It's fine. We can talk about it midseason.
And I went to Ole Miss, or dreamed of going to Ole Miss, and went to community college near Ole Miss.
Wes?
I was speaking as Wes.
Wes, your thoughts.
615.
Wait your response, Wes.
737-1025.
Say now.
Our phone number. Robby and Rexrode. We have more with PK coming up next. You're listening to 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final segment of the day with PK. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025, our phone number. PK, I want to throw this question at you. We would all agree, I think, that wide receiver, edge rusher, enormous needs for the Titans outside of quarterback right now. So let me put it to you this way. Let's say they get to pick 35 overall. They're not able to trade back. And let's say for the sake of this discussion, knowing that it doesn't play out this way hardly ever, the sake of this discussion that there's a wide receiver that's available and there's an edge rusher that's available, and the Titans think they're about equal as players. Which way are you going if you're the Titans? What's more important of a need in your mind?
Well, I'm going to post James Foster's piece coming up here shortly. He points out, the odds of getting an impact edge rusher in the 4th, where their next pick would be, are lower than, it's not great to find a receiver there either, but it's much lower. There's a school of thought. I've been talking about this with some other guys. There's a school of thought you want to get Cam Ward, somebody that's going to help him, and I understand that, like literally help him, like somebody to throw to. But I think, they gave up 27 points a game. They scored 18. You got to see those numbers change, right? If the edge rusher is going to chop away at that 27 in some way, that's fine. If you're bringing that number down, that's as good as bringing the 18 up. You got to stop red zone possessions, turn touchdowns into field goals, force some turnovers that give Cam Ward and the offense some better possessions, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think that edge rusher can help Cam Ward, not in as tangible a way where he's throwing the ball to him, but in a way, I think if you're given a choice there and you've got two equal guys and you're going horizontal instead of vertical, I think it's got to be the edge rusher. You have bodies on your team. These edge rushers that they brought in, Draymond Jones and I'm going to forget the other name, are guys that can be depth, but you need a frontline edge rusher. I think you can probably find one at 35.
Yeah, good defense also matters to a quarterback for sure. I mean, if you're down double digits all the time in the 4th quarter, you can get some empty calorie stats, but also you're dropping back all the time. You're in harm's way all the time. The other team knows what you're doing all the time, and so now you've actually put the quarterback in more harm.
Lorenzo Carter, the other guy.
Lorenzo Carter,
yep.
Thank you. But again, it's a shame that they are in this situation where they are so needy at two positions, two really important positions, and without that 3rd round pick. And again, L'Jarius Sneed could be a major contributor this year. We don't know. But, I think they had a chance to get the 3rd rounder back after the Levis trade, which would have given them another element here.
By the way, the one thing we've not brought up today on the show as it relates to that too, Awuzie ends up in Baltimore. So the factory from the Titans to Baltimore just continues.
Yeah, be healthy and have a great season next year. So speaking of Levis, and you said 3rd round picks, Matthew Nashville says, why not get a 3rd for Levis? We need to set the expectations here.
A lot of people have a 5th for Levis, which is too expensive. Levis, I think, first off, I don't think many people want Levis. Secondly, Titans fans just overvaluing their players is a Nashville tradition, unlike any other.
They're not.
I think
alone,
Levis is a pick swap, like
a
6th for a 5th or 7th for a 6th.
Yeah,
that's what you're looking for Will Levis.
He points out the Steelers got one for Kenny Pickett. He's just as bad as Levis.
No, he's not just as bad as Levis. I think you guys are really underrating how bad Levis was.
Well, there's a lot less information on Pickett at that point.
Yeah, he's still a prospect.
Than there is now on Levis. That's the difference. So, yeah, that's not happening.
But also, Pickett was a first rounder with upside at that stage. He was seen as. That's not what Will Levis is now.
Well, Levis needs to go somewhere where there's an entrenched starter in place that doesn't need some veteran backup. Like people are throwing out the idea of Minnesota. That makes no sense.
No.
That makes no sense.
They're looking for somebody who could potentially start ahead of McCarthy.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's
like Jacksonville makes sense.
Yeah,
that's the only place that makes sense. And I don't know who their backup is right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's better than Levis.
Well, there was Mac Jones. So I don't know who their backup is at the moment.
Yeah. But it's like you got to find a team that likes him. And so, and that would be obviously their head coach has a great relationship with him and really was there for the best football he's played.
Real quickly, what do you make of this? So Justin Mellows put this out there.
Nick Mullins is the backup in Jackson.
And I'd probably take Levis over him. Justin Mellows thrown this out there. The Titans are hosting Iowa running back Caleb Johnson on a pre-draft visit. He's put that Caleb Johnson has on his social media.
Good player.
Interesting that Tennessee is hosting a projected top 64 pick despite having Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears on the roster. That's from Justin Mellows.
There's no way they're drafting him in the top 64. If they do, that's
I mean,
we're talking about edge and wide receiver in the holes, and they need a third string running back.
Like that's an example to me of if you are able to get back into the third, he drops a little bit. Now you've done your due diligence.
Yep.
I still would be.
I'd still be three picks in the top.
Yeah, I'd still be hesitant. He is good though.
That's fine. He's good. Where are the touches for him?
Well, it would signal to me that you're probably moving on from Spears. That would be what that would signal to me.
Yeah.
If they move on from Spears after spending a third rounder on Spears, my God.
I'm with you.
Would you be shocked though? I mean,
those guys aren't here anymore though.
Yeah.
I think you've got to. I think you have to make Spears work for another year. Yes, I think you have to throw to him in space often.
Okay.
PK, great stuff today, man. Thanks for being with us.
Don't block the box. Be sure to lock your locks. See ya.
You really worked on that lip smacking.
That does it for us.
Did a great job
on the program.
Yeah, it was way better.
I thought of it for one segment, and then I went back to whatever.
We'll be back 6 a.m. tomorrow. Jason Big Joe up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.